What if I told you that some of the most potent, fast-acting nutritional tools for calming inflammation, restoring gut balance, and jump-starting recovery are named right there in the pages of Scripture? That claim sounds bold, and the title you just heard, Instant Healing, warrants an immediate caveat. When we say instant, we mean rapid biological effects that research has documented. Things like immediate anti-inflammatory signaling, accelerated enzyme activity at the wound site in lab studies, or quick delivery of usable glucose to a weary body. These are physiological responses you can see beginning within minutes to hours. They are not a promise of guaranteed miracles, and they are not substitutes for medical care when that care is needed. Let faith and food meet medicine and wisdom. Consult a clinician for serious illness or injury. With that humility established, I want to take you on a countdown. 10 meals, rooted in biblical places and stories, each described as a sensory scene, a short scientific sketch, and a practical way to try it this week. Along the way, you'll see how individual ingredients carry bioactive compounds, allicin, beta-glucan, phycin, oleocanthal, resistant starch, probiotics, and how combinations often do more than the parts alone. If this speaks to you, subscribe and try one of these meals this week. Leave a note in the comments about which you'll make. 10. A chilled bowl of cucumber with fermented goat yogurt and bright mint, gentle, cooling, and designed for the gut. Picture a hot afternoon in a Judean field. Someone slices cool, pale green cucumber, tosses it into a bowl, folds in spoonfuls of tangy goat yogurt and tears of fresh mint. The ingredients are simple: cucumbers for hydration and trace silica, fermented goat yogurt for live cultures, and mint as a mild antispasmodic and aromatic soother. But their physiological effects are immediate and complementary. Cucumber tissue is mostly water, but also contains soluble fibers and micronutrients that support hydration and reduce osmotic stress in the gut. When paired with fermented goat milk, you get bacteria that can begin to modulate intestinal inflammation within hours, improving barrier function and reducing bloating in many people. Goat yogurt, in particular, carries strains that are often better tolerated by those who struggle with cow's milk, and its fats help carry fat-soluble nutrients. Mint contains volatile oils that relax smooth muscle and calm cramping. Together, the bowl becomes a fast-acting digestive reset. The liquids and electrolytes ease dehydration. Probiotics begin to crowd out dysbiotic bacteria and moderate immune signaling, and mint reduces discomfort. Studies have found that fermented dairy can reduce markers of gut inflammation and improve stool patterns. Other trials show peppermint oil reduces intestinal spasm. To make it, slice cucumbers thinly, fold them into a bowl with strained goat yogurt, a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil, a pinch of salt, and chopped mint. Serve chilled. Historically, simple yogurt and herb dishes have been staples alongside breads in the ancient Near East, a practical taste-driven medicine practiced for generations. 9. A steaming pot of garlic and herb lentil soup, earthy, warming, and immune-forward. Imagine the aroma of crushed garlic blooming in olive oil, the earthy depth of red lentils softening into a creamy texture, cumin and coriander rising as steam. The bowl contains lentils for protein and resistant starch precursors, garlic for allicin, and warm spices for digestive support. Biochemically, allicin forms when crushed garlic is exposed to air. It is one of the compounds most studied for its antimicrobial and immune-modulating actions. Lentils provide a slow, steady release of amino acids and fiber, feeding the gut microbiome and stabilizing blood sugar, which indirectly supports immune function. Olive oil supplies monounsaturated fats and polyphenols that help absorb fat-soluble components and temper inflammation. When you simmer crushed garlic with lentils and spices, you're creating an environment where the allicin and lentil fiber work in concert. The garlic helps reduce the burden of opportunistic bacteria, while the lentil-supplied fibers feed beneficial microbes that in turn educate the immune system. Research suggests that diets rich in legumes are linked with lower systemic inflammation and better metabolic markers. Lab studies of garlic compounds show rapid antimicrobial activity in culture and modulatory effects on immune cells. For a simple preparation, sweat crushed garlic in a splash of olive oil, add rinsed lentils, broth, ground cumin and coriander, and simmer until tender. Finish with lemon and fresh herbs. In many cultures across the Mediterranean and the Levant, lentil stews were common daily fare, practical nourishment and protection in one bowl. 8. A grain bowl of pearl barley with pomegranate molasses, toasted walnuts and fresh herbs, bright, chewy and artery-friendly. Imagine grabbing a spoonful where the grittiness of stone-ground barley meets jewel-like pomegranate arils. A drizzle of oil and a scattering of herbs tie it together. Barley brings beta-glucan, a soluble fiber known to bind bile acids and lower LDL cholesterol over time. Pomegranate contributes concentrated polyphenols and punicolagens that act as antioxidants and reduce oxidative stress on vessel walls. Walnuts add alpha-linolenic acid and vitamin E for membrane protection. The mechanics are worth watching. Beta-glucan forms a viscous matrix in the small intestine that slows carbohydrate absorption and sequesters bile acids, prompting the liver to pull cholesterol from the blood to make more bile. Pomegranate polyphenols scavenge free radicals and modulate endothelial function, improving nitric oxide signaling and vessel relaxation. When combined, the fiber reduces postprandial spikes, while the antioxidants protect those newly circulating lipids from oxidation, a synergy that supports cardiovascular health and rapid reductions in inflammatory markers in some feeding studies. When prepared as a bowl, cooked pearl barley tossed with pomegranate seeds, chopped walnuts, a splash of olive oil, lemon and torn mint, you get a meal that begins to influence lipid handling and inflammatory signaling within hours to days. Studies have shown pomegranate consumption can lower blood pressure modestly and improve markers of oxidative stress. Trials on barley beta-glucan demonstrate cholesterol-lowering effects with consistent consumption. In the ancient world, pomegranates and grains anchored feasts and temple offerings. Today they anchor a heart-focused lunch. 7. Dates stuffed with nuts, a compact portable energy rescue. Picture reaching into a small bag and unwrapping a glossy brown date, its sticky flesh yielding to reveal a crunchy almond tucked inside. Dates are quick glucose delivered in a fibrous matrix. They supply potassium, magnesium, and B vitamins, while their fiber tempers the glycemic rise, offering a fast but steady energy boost. Nuts add monounsaturated fats, magnesium for muscle and nerve recovery, and small amounts of plant-based omega-3s and arginine, a precursor for nitric oxide. Eating this pairing supplies immediate usable fuel for a tired body and a sustained release of nutrients that support cellular repair. Research on dates highlights their antioxidant content and mineral profile. Observational studies linking nut consumption with lower cardiovascular events emphasize their role in long-term resilience. For a simple serving, slit medjool dates and press in a pecan or almond. For variety, coat in cocoa or sprinkle with sea salt. Travelers and shepherds of the ancient Near East prized dates for exactly these reasons. Portable, calorie-dense, and sustaining, ideal for recovery between meals. 6. A composed platter of grapes, small rounds of fermented goat cheese, herbs and olives. Sweet, creamy, briny, and microbiome-friendly. Picture a rough wooden plate where vine-ripe grapes glisten beside tart, cultured cheese, with brined olives offering a savory counterpoint and a handful of oregano. Grapes, especially skins and seeds, contain resveratrol-like polyphenols and flavonoids that modulate cellular stress responses. Fermented goat cheese supplies live cultures and bacterial metabolites that can influence gut-brain signaling. Olives and their oil bring oleuropein and hydroxytyrosol, polyphenol compounds associated with reduced inflammation and improved endothelial function. The combination creates immediate effects. The polyphenols in grapes and olives act on oxidative pathways and inflammatory signaling quickly after ingestion, while fermented cheese begins to influence short-chain fatty acid production in the colon within a day, supporting gut barrier and immune balance. Emerging studies suggest that mixed plate feeding, combining fresh polyphenol-rich fruit with fermented dairy, produces more diverse short-term shifts in the microbiome than either alone. To serve, arrange black or red grapes with slices of young goat cheese. Scatter olives and torn herbs, drizzle with a little olive oil, and serve with crisp bread. In Mediterranean diets across history, such small plates provided midday restorative nutrition, flavors that pleased the palate, and compounds that supported ongoing health. 5. Slow-roasted lamb with dates and a crown of rosemary and thyme, a restorative, protein-dense feast for convalescence. Envision a slow oven where lamb fat slowly renders, the meat pulling apart tender, perfumed by the piney lift of rosemary and the sweet counterbalance of chopped dates. Lamb supplies heme iron for rapid replenishment of iron stores, B12 for red blood cell formation and neurological support, and an array of essential amino acids critical to wound repair and immune cell production. Dates paired on the plate supply vitamin C precursors, simple sugars that support quickly available energy for healing cells, and minerals that assist iron utilization. The herbs contribute volatile terpenes and phenolic compounds with antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory tendencies. Mechanistically, the body needs amino acids for collagen synthesis, iron for hemoglobin and cellular respiration, and micronutrients like zinc for immune cell proliferation. This dish supplies all of those in bioavailable forms. Clinical nutrition recognizes the importance of protein and iron in recovery from illness or surgery, and observational studies of traditional meat and fruit pairings show favorable outcomes in convalescent populations. A practical preparation is to slow roast a leg or shoulder of lamb with halved dates tucked into the roasting pan and sprigs of rosemary and thyme. Serve with a simple barley pilaf or roasted root vegetables. Throughout the ancient Near East, roasted meats and sweet fruits were paired for festive and restorative occasions, food as both celebration and medicine. 4. Figs paired with almonds, a short story of wound care folded into a daily snack. The prophet Isaiah relates a scene connected to Hezekiah in Isaiah 38:21, where a poultice of figs is mentioned alongside the king's recovery. The passage is a reminder that fig-based preparations were known in ancient remedies. Imagine tearing a soft fig, its interior sticky and floral, and combining it with the earthy crunch of blanched almonds. Figs contain phycin, a group of proteolytic enzymes, along with phenolic compounds and soluble fibers that can modify local bacterial communities. Almonds supply vitamin E, magnesium, and healthy fats that support membrane integrity and antioxidant defense. The historical note about fig poultices is a vivid cultural memory, but it must be handled carefully. While some animal and in vitro studies show that fig compounds can influence wound healing pathways, modern medicine does not recommend replacing proper wound care with food applications on open or complicated wounds. Nutritionally, consuming figs and almonds together supports tissue repair from the inside, providing amino acid substrates, antioxidants to control oxidative stress, and minerals necessary for collagen formation. Laboratory studies of fig extracts indicate antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties in controlled settings, and observationally, populations with higher fig consumption often show favorable markers of nutrient sufficiency. For an edible pairing, slice fresh figs and scatter slivered almonds atop plain yogurt or drizzle with a little honey. The result is a snack that supports tissue repair and provides immediate, gentle energy. The Isaiah vignette reminds us of the long human habit of turning to nature's offerings in times of illness, even as we now combine that tradition with modern clinical wisdom. 3. A chickpea and olive salad, simple, ancient and microbiome forward. Picture ripe chickpeas, their skins slightly chewy, tossed with briny sliced olives, chopped parsley and a bright lemon olive oil dressing. Chickpeas are a long-standing crop in the region, valued for their resistant starch and fermentable fibers. These feed colonic microbes that produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, which directly nourish colonocytes and reduce mucosal inflammation. Olives and extra virgin olive oil provide polyphenols such as oleuropein and hydroxytyrosol, which act quickly to dampen inflammatory signaling and protect lipids from oxidative damage. Combined, the chickpea's fiber profile and the olive oil's polyphenols create a meal that supports gut integrity and systemic metabolic signaling. When microbes ferment resistant starch, they produce metabolites that lower systemic inflammation and improve insulin sensitivity. Olive polyphenols can interact with those metabolites to amplify anti-inflammatory pathways. Numerous dietary studies show that legume-rich, olive oil-based diets correspond with healthier microbiomes and better glycemic control. Controlled feeding trials have documented improvements in short-term markers of insulin sensitivity and inflammation. To prepare this salad, drain and rinse cooked chickpeas. Toss with sliced olives, chopped parsley, lemon juice, and a generous glug of extra virgin olive oil. For crunch, add diced cucumber or toasted seeds. This is the kind of daily habit, steady, palatable and affordable, that produces measurable changes over weeks and months, the kind of consistency the ancients also relied upon. 2. Dense barley bread torn and soaked in good olive oil, simple, sustaining and anti-inflammatory at the molecular level. Envision a thick, rustic loaf of barley-heavy bread, its crumb dense and comforting, torn and dipped into a small dish of peppery, extra virgin olive oil. Barley, emphasized in the Gospels as a common staple. Barley loaves appear in the feeding narratives, for example in John 6:9, contains beta-glucan that slows digestion and modulates lipid metabolism. Extra virgin olive oil contains oleocanthal, a compound that in lab studies inhibits COX enzymes, pathways also targeted by common anti-inflammatory medications. It is vital to phrase this carefully. Olive oil's compounds act on similar inflammatory pathways in laboratory settings and in observational feeding studies, and regular consumption is associated with lower markers of chronic inflammation. But olive oil is not a pharmaceutical replacement for anti-inflammatory drugs in acute or severe cases. In practice, pairing dense barley bread with olive oil creates rapid soothing effects. Glucose rises modestly and steadily, fatty acids modulate postprandial inflammation, and the overall meal prevents the spikes and crashes that stress immune and metabolic systems. Clinical nutrition trials comparing Mediterranean-style diets to controls often show reductions in inflammatory biomarkers and improved cardiovascular risk profiles over months. To serve, mix stone-ground barley with a smaller portion of wheat, or use 100% barley for traditional texture. Bake into dense loaves and tear pieces for dipping into extra virgin olive oil with a grind of black pepper. This straightforward act, daily bread and oil, was central to ancient table life and remains a practical anti-inflammatory ritual. When the 7 sacred foods feast bowl, wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives and dates, Deuteronomy 8:8, presents them not merely as commodities, but as the staples of the land's bounty. Picture a broad bowl where cracked wheat sits warm at the base, barley's chew mingling with torn figs, jewel-like pomegranate seeds stud the surface, plump olives nestle in, and dates and grapes peek through. An integrated plate of complementary textures and flavors. Individually, each ingredient carries nutrients and bioactives. Together, they form a near-complete nutritional mosaic. Wheat and barley provide complex carbohydrates and fermentable fibers. Grapes, pomegranates, and figs bring a diverse spectrum of polyphenols and antioxidants. Olives and olive oil supply monounsaturated fats and phenolics. Dates add mineral density and quick sugars for immediate energy. The physiological story of this bowl is about balance and synergy. Fibers feed a diverse microbiome that produces anti-inflammatory short-chain fatty acids. Polyphenols modulate oxidative stress and cell signaling. Mono and polyunsaturated fats facilitate nutrient absorption and reduce inflammatory cascades. In short, the combined meal supports both immediate metabolic needs, glucose and fatty acids for energy, and the longer-term repair processes that require amino acids, antioxidants, and micronutrients. Studies that examine whole diet patterns often find that meals emphasizing a wide variety of plant foods and quality fats produce the broadest and most rapid improvements in inflammatory markers and metabolic health. Framed theologically, Deuteronomy 8:8's list is more than description. It functions as an agricultural and nutritional principle. Practically, build the bowl by cooking whole wheat berries and barley, then toss with chopped figs, pomegranate arils, sliced olives, chopped dates, and a drizzle of good olive oil. Eat it as a central daily meal, and you're practicing an integrative approach to nourishment that cultures have refined for millennia. If you step back, you'll notice a pattern across these meals. A rhythm of hydration and microbiome care, immune-supporting compounds, bioavailable protein and iron for repair, and a steady presence of polyphenols and healthy fats that keep inflammatory circuits from running unchecked. Cucumber and yogurt are gut-first interventions, immediate relief for digestion. Garlic lentil soup and slow-roasted lamb are immune and recovery dishes, protein plus antimicrobial or modulatory plant compounds. Barley bowls and olive-rich plates are cardiovascular and metabolic stabilizers, slow, consistent dietary strategies that produce measurable effects over weeks, yet also initiate biochemical changes within hours after your first meal. Dates and nuts offer portable caloric and micronutrient support that are ideally suited for convalescence or travel. Figs and almonds preserve the memory of very old remedies and remind us to interpret historical practice with modern caution. A few scientific caveats are important in how you use this information. When a lab study says a compound has a given effect in vitro, that does not translate to a clinical prescription for every individual. The human body is complex, and genetics, microbiome composition, current medications, and the severity of illness will shape outcomes. That said, there is a robust and growing literature showing that these foods produce consistent, beneficial shifts in inflammatory markers, endothelial function, gut microbiome profiles, and metabolic outcomes, often within days of dietary change and with accumulating benefits over weeks to months. So when we speak of instant or rapid effects, we mean biologically meaningful changes that begin quickly, not magical cures. Use these meals to complement, not to replace, appropriate medical care. Let me offer some practical ways to adopt this wisdom without turning your kitchen into a lab. Try picking one meal to focus on for a week. If your gut feels off after travel or a late night, start with the cucumber and fermented goat yogurt bowl for 2 or 3 days. If you're facing a cold season or want an immune maintenance practice, make the garlic lentil soup twice in a week and have it for lunches. If you're worried about heart health or want to stabilize blood sugar, rotate the barley and pomegranate bowl into your rotation several times over 2 weeks. If you need portable energy for a long day, pack dates stuffed with almonds. The key is consistency. These are not one-off hacks, but habits that, combined with rest, hydration, and appropriate medical support, build resilience. A few ethical and doctrinal reflections before we close. Scripture names these foods in contexts that are spiritual and symbolic, as well as practical. Deuteronomy's list functions within a theological narrative about gratitude and provision. Isaiah's mention of fig poultices sits within a story of prayer and divine intervention. The feeding narratives show bread and grain as both sustenance and a sign of compassion. Honoring these texts means acknowledging their spiritual meaning and their cultural history, not reducing them to mere nutritional manuals. Yet we can celebrate how God's provision included foods that sustain and heal. Modern science is catching up to these ancestral patterns, offering mechanisms and evidence that validate long-used practices without overruling the need for clinical care. Before we end, consider a few short, concrete recipes you can start with this week. For the cucumber and goat yogurt bowl, slice 2 cucumbers, fold into a cup of strained goat yogurt, add a tablespoon of olive oil, a handful of chopped mint, and a sprinkle of sea salt. For the garlic lentil soup, gently crush 4 cloves of garlic into a tablespoon of olive oil, cook until fragrant, add a cup of rinsed red lentils, 4 cups of broth, a teaspoon each of cumin and coriander, and simmer until creamy. Finish with lemon and parsley. For the 7-food bowl, cook a ½ cup each of wheat berries and barley, cool them, toss with 2 chopped figs, a ½ cup of pomegranate arils, a handful of halved grapes, chopped dates, a ¼ cup of sliced olives, and a tablespoon of olive oil. Season with lemon and mint. Which of these will you make first? Pick one, try it this week, and tell us in the comments. If you found this exploration helpful, subscribe for more deep dives that honor ancient wisdom and modern science. Remember, food supports healing and sometimes produces remarkably quick biochemical shifts, but it does not replace medical treatment when that is required. Walk in gratitude for the provision of simple, potent foods. Approach them with curiosity, steady practice, and humility. May these meals nourish your body as Scripture and tradition intended, and may the God who provides daily bread guide you toward health, wisdom, and restoration.